Welcome to Secrets from the Saddle podcast. I'm Sylvie Dow, your host, fellow cyclist, bike club founder, cycling coach, bike race junkie, just truly super passionate about cycling. My journey with cycling started 20 years ago when I opened a spin studio, started a women's race team, and founded a women's only cycling club called CycleFitness. I'm super thrilled to reveal all aspects that make the world of cycling operate. I'm so excited to be able to bring you interesting people from around the world, pro cyclists, recreational cyclists, coaches, event organizers, bike shop owners, everything and everyone you need to know or ever wondered about when it comes to cycling. I know you'll enjoy this episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, all things cycling podcast with your host, Sylvie Dow. And I am really excited about this episode because my good friend, Camille Lawson, we've known each other for 10 years, and she has helped me a lot with the hormones and the balance and the athleticism. So I've asked her to come on the podcast to talk about women, hormones, menopause, because I just stepped into it this summer. It just hit me. And as a female aging athlete. Now, Camille's background, she's a retired nurse. She's a hormone specialist. So that's why we got her here. And she's a sex therapist, but we're just going to talk about the hormones today. But it's just so important as women that we listen to our body, and also with cycling, we're going to tie everything in. And I can't wait to hear what Camille has to say about all of this, because I'm certainly going to be taking notes. So maybe we should all just sit down and get our pen and paper, because she has some great stuff to share. Not to mention, sorry, Camille, we'll bring you out soon, that if you are ever looking to find her, go to YouTube. She has an amazing YouTube channel with small segments on a lot of they're all hormone related videos. They're so informative, short and sweet, and they've really helped me too. So welcome, Camille, to the podcast. I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you, Sylvie. And I'm both honored and privileged and thrilled to be here, because I do know so many women want to talk about this. They want answers. They want to also just express themselves, and maybe most importantly, know that they're not alone in how they start to, feel as their hormones come more into play.
Exactly. And I forgot to mention that the way we know each other is through an exceptional nutritional company called Isogenics that we both use. I've been using the products for 10 years. Camille, how many years?
Oh my gosh, I think I'm up to 15 and really wouldn't deviate. And I will talk about nutrition and how it interplays with hormones, because there's so many nutritional remedies that we can have that can really help us feel better and more like ourselves again. So it's very helpful to know that, and not kind of accept that these changes happen to us and we just have to go along with them, because we don't. Some of them we do, but lots we don't.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I felt that I had on track, and it's been 10 years, right? So that I had my nutrition down, and I don't just supplement 100% of the time. Supplementing with their products, whether it be adaptogens or collagen or electrolytes or meal replacements, it certainly has made my life a whole lot simpler. And I know, like, Camille will talk about that. So being an athlete on the bike, and through those years, I've competed both on the bike, on the stage, and these products have been a staple in my life, and they will forever be. So let's dive into it, Camille. We're talking here about the aging female athlete. And I was just saying, I turned 51, I'll be 52, and hormones, I don't know. Menopause has just stepped into my life as of July. With the hot flashes and the antsy legs. That's not the word I'm looking for, but like
The cramps and the restless legs.
The restless legs, not
Yeah.
cramps. It's restless legs.
Yeah.
And the hot flashes.
So maybe we should just define, and we'll use you,
Yes.
Sylvie, as
All
the
right.
example. So let's just define first what menopause and perimenopause are, because
Yes.
Especially if you're just starting into some hormonal changes,
Mm-hmm.
we're not always sure. People say, "Oh, am I in menopause? Am I not?" Excuse me, I just need some water there. Excuse me. So firstly, I'm going to digress and say, as women and men, but especially as women, we are hormonal our whole life, right? We tend to focus on kind of that perimenopause changes in our 40s and 50s as being the time. But if you think about it, hormones are actually plain. If any of you have teenagers, you know that hormones with your girls, especially men, boys again too, but especially your girls, hormones are major in play. Would you agree? I know you have some teenagers, so you know that. I had 3.
I've got a couple coming up the ropes.
Yeah, and you literally sometimes it's like, where did, and that's hormones, which is normal at that time to be kind of raging and fluctuating at an alarming rate. Then they can kind of settle down in our 20s, our 30s, depending on whether you are having children or not. Obviously, pregnancy, fertility, any of those kind of things, infertility, all of those also cause a lot of ups and downs with our hormones, and quite extreme. And as a little aside, a lot of people don't realize after you're pregnant, it takes our bodies at least 1 full year to kind of regain our equilibrium, our homeostasis balance in our hormones. A lot of women think, oh, why haven't I bounced back after 6 months, or hair still falling out? Well, that's all hormonal. All of that is hormones. And then when we think about the kind of stressors that we start to have as life goes along, sometimes there's career stresses, financial, relationship stresses, kids stresses, aging parents. A lot of that starts to come into play in our 40s. And we haven't maybe even started into what's defined as perimenopause. So just the point is, we are really hormonal beings that control every aspect of what our body does. And I'm also in awe of that. That's why I like to bring that up. Like, we have over 50 hormones. Like, that's a lot of hormones.
50.
And they're like a symphony, as I'm sure you've heard me say, but it's important to realize they are like in sync, they're in balance. And when even one goes off, it can throw the whole symphony of those 50 out of whack. And so it's just, I think we want to, give due respect. Maybe that's the best way to say it. Due respect to how important our hormones are in our life. So to define, perimenopause can typically happen literally as early as late 30s, and really go right up into age 57 or 58. That is the time where your ovaries are starting to make less and fewer of your key hormones, like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, DHEA. Sometimes thyroid function can get a little off, insulin. So these hormones are really, are important sex hormones, and also, again, big hormones on our mood and what's happening with our periods. So during this time of perimenopause, what's happening is our hormones are really fluctuating. Some months you may get a normal period, some months you may not. Some months you may get 2 days of a period, and some months you may have a period for 3 weeks, and you're like, what the heck is going on here? And that is your ovaries just aging, and your hormones are up and down. One of the first signs, Sylvie, that a lot of women notice is that their mood is really off. They're like, I don't feel like myself. I'm angry. I'm irritated. And they're still getting a period every month, but they are noticing that their mood is off. I don't know if you've experienced any of that.
Not this year. I do remember there was a part part of my life. It was like 3 week. It was like a 3 week like section, and I was so anxious. Like, I couldn't sleep anxious. Like, I'd wake up anxious, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I have never felt like this before. And I'm like, I did so much like to try and control, like, why am I feeling like this? Is like, I was, yeah, like, but I think that for me, it was, and I think about that, and I'm like, what's going on? Is that there was a lot of things out of balance in my life, not inside my life, that was causing me to be super anxious. And okay, it's my husband. He's going off to golf.
Perfect. Lovely.
Yeah.
That's a good stress release, unless you're somebody who gets uptight with golf, which I don't, but hopefully
No,
it doesn't
these
either.
Wednesday nights are golf nights or golf
Love
days
it.
with the boys. So that means I
So that's a
go
fun.
out to the restaurant.
Yeah, well, that you got it. So that's the whole thing. You're not alone. I mean, that your anxiety, even though you may have identified, Sylvie, external factors, which of
It
course
was
these life things can get in the way.
unbelievable.
We know that, life happens and it can cause us stress. But there's also that internal cortisol, our stress hormone, which I'll talk more about at length in a moment because it's that.
Yeah.
But the anxiety, I just want you to know, and for a lot of the women out there, women who have always been very calm and overnight become very anxious. And that is hormonal. It is part of what we're talking about. Progesterone is the hormone that is responsible for our mood and calmness. And often progesterone is one of the very first hormones to start to plummet. And in fact, here's a little trivia for you. Many of us, myself included, will develop like a PMS-y type of thing, even if you never had it before. And I'll tell you, it's a quick story, Sylvie, but that's how I got involved with hormones to such a degree. When I was about 38 or 39, it was not perimenopausal. I developed PMS overnight, but I didn't know what it was. Before my period, I started just crying and being anxious and irritated and completely out of character for me. And it literally, I'm telling you, it was frightening because it happened out of the blue. I'm like, who am
Whoa.
And because I am a big researcher type, as you know, I found an integrative physician, so a medical doctor who's gone on to study hormones and nutrition. And at the time, he was sort of the only one in Canada. I'm just going back because I am 61. So we're going back to when I was
You look
39.
fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel fabulous. I feel fabulous. But he did some testing and he said your progesterone is down in the toilet, like it's almost not there. So he gave me a bioidentical hormone, which again we'll talk about in a moment. It's not for everybody, but I started on the wild yam, which is a natural progesterone cream, and I was
Oh.
a new person. I then went along feeling just normal every month. Those crying things were gone, the irritability. I still got a period every month. I, in fact, didn't enter into menopause. And the definition of menopause, ladies, is when you have ceased to have a period for 12 consecutive months. So when that date happens, you are now officially entered into the phase of life we call menopause, which just means really it's going to be the rest of your life. You are no longer having a period. But until you hit that 12-month consecutive, you are what we say in perimenopause, leading up, like the time leading up. So it's interesting because perimenopause can last for some women 10 years. They can have these hormones fluctuating and it can be really hard because some women experience the extreme of symptoms, like a lot of hot flashes, a lot of sleeplessness, high stress, irritability, no sex drive. These things are hard. Some women experience just one or two or three of those, and maybe to a lesser degree. So for me, I didn't hit menopause until I was just over 56. So I was on the later side of things.
Okay.
All normal though. Late 30s to 57 would be considered 100% normal. So a friend of yours might be in full menopause at age 42. She no longer gets a period, and that's normal. That's normal for her. And when that happens, that means our ovaries have really stopped making hormones, and other parts of our body have to kick in. So our adrenal glands, which are two little glands located in your back area just above your kidneys, and they are like a powerhouse. They are like super important adrenal glands because they make your cortisol, and during menopause they actually make a little bit of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. So we want to look after our adrenal glands because they are that important. And if we're, maybe you tell me if we want to talk about stress in a moment, because that is really, it's a huge thing for women, isn't it, Sylvie? Wouldn't you agree? The women,
Oh, totally, Camille. So your adrenal glands are in your back.
Well, your back area, if you our body's three-dimensional, so
Well, I would have thought that they were up near your head.
No, where your kidneys are kind of your lower back area. So your adrenals are kind of sitting just above your kidneys. And so when they're working really hard, your adrenals in overdrive, which they often are for women, they can press on your kidneys. And for example, that 2 to 4 a.m., night pee that many of us have is often because your adrenals are so busy churning out cortisol, our stress hormone, which it's not supposed to do at night, but it is, that it presses on our kidneys. And we do have to go to the bathroom, but it wakes us up. If our adrenals weren't busy, for many of us, we would not be waking up going to the bathroom.
That is so interesting. Like when I was thinking of adrenal glands and like adrenal fatigue and like I was thinking like this is more of a brain thing, not like like a full body.
It's a physical thing, adrenal burnout.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and maybe this is a good time just to talk for a moment about cortisol and kind of that cortisol curve. I mean, and let me just ask you a question. I'm curious with your cycling, and I know you get a lot of athletes coming to you and a lot of wanting women who want to learn to cycle in a group environment, which I so love that you brought women together. Excuse me. My throat is doing that today. Do you find that women are gravitating to the sport as a stress release? Like they recognize that maybe they want some fun and some community and some accountability of exercise, or are they coming for other reasons? Like, I'm curious.
The majority of the ladies come to our club for the social aspect one, the just having something for themselves to, I guess it would be a release, like to get out of the house, to have something of their own. And I just trying to think about stresses during the summer when you're outside riding. Like I don't see, like I can see people or women wanting to ride all the time, and they do ride all the time, and they figure that they think they need to ride all the time and make all the rides where maybe you can touch a little bit on the need to recover and the stress that you're putting on your body when you're already stressed and you're trying to get out for a bike ride, and the stress you put on yourself to be active. Maybe that's one of the leading things that us women put on ourselves, because we are going to talk, like you mentioned, we're going to talk about strength training, and how that's better than cardio. But the stress of having to get out there and get your workout in, whether it's a bike or a run or a swim, and how much that can cause your body. Because I see women overdoing it all the time, and they're just so tired, fatigued. Like, I'm so tired. I'm like, well, when was the last time you had a day off? Or why do you need to do 2 sports in one day? If but I understand if you're a triathlete, that's what you do, right? Sorry, not knocking on triathletes, but you guys are pretty bad sometimes. Sorry.
Well, you raised, those are really important points to integrate, and I think will be of value and interest for your listenership. So the best way I think to understand that, and then I guess my goal, and I know yours is too, Sylvie, is to take this information and apply it where it fits for your own life, and let it guide you accordingly. Where your stress level is. I often ask women on a scale of, 1 to 10, let's just rate your usual daily stress level. 1 being I'm totally chill and
Yeah.
calm as can be. 10 is plus, I'm over the top. I can feel my stress level is so high. And I often, Sylvie, have women be an 8, 9, or a 10. And then I get the ones who say, oh, 10? I'm 25. Like, can't I be 25 or 30? Because but let me just go back and explain cortisol, which is our stress hormone. And the reason I'm going to spend, ladies, some time on this is because cortisol is what we refer to in the hormone world as a foundation hormone. What does that mean? It means that when cortisol is out of balance, it literally affects every other hormone. So naturally, it's logical. If we were to start working on only one hormone that we want to focus on, cortisol is the one we want to focus on. Because until we get that cortisol balanced, it doesn't really matter what we do for the other ones. Does that make sense, Sylvie? Like
Yeah.
it's a foundation hormone. It's the key. And I really want to emphasize that. And I know we talk a lot about stress and, it kills you, and literally it can, and the heart disease that can come from it. By the way, that's from inflammation that cortisol can cause. So cortisol is not bad, though. Our stress hormone is actually there for a really good reason. And normally in a well-functioning, balanced body, what happens is you wake up, and we call this your cortisol curve. Your cortisol is coming up. It's a good thing. It gives you energy, gives you focus. It gives you that joie de vivre. Cortisol is that, whew, here I am, So you're in the morning, cortisol is going up, starts to peak around midday, slowly starts to come down in the afternoon in an ideal world. And by evening, our cortisol is back down, and it stays fairly low and allows us to sleep at night because we're not stimulated now. And
Right.
then in the morning, it comes back up again. Well, what happens for many of us, and we'll focus on women because it is way worse for women, I find, most of the time, is their stress level. They've got, again, all these outside stressors, as we talked about: financial, relationships, kids, work, parents, pressure to be like, we know as women, we have a tremendous amount of pressure on us. And so for many of us, our cortisol levels are continually higher and higher and higher, where they don't come down, Sylvie. So instead of being down, they're just up all the time,
Yeah.
24/7. And after a while, we can keep up with that for a while, but after a while, we can't. And our adrenal glands, so we'll circle back to those glands that are so important. They're busy churning out cortisol. That's where it comes from, as our body is demanding it in order to somehow stay in balance. Our adrenals are trying really hard to keep up. And if we don't intervene and fix that, what happens is our adrenals do get tired. We call it adrenal fatigue. You just start to get worn down. So instead of cortisol stimulating you, your adrenals are saying, I can't keep doing this. I just can't keep it up. And so now that fatigue starts to set in, and it becomes a vicious circle. And women, I know many women, I'm sure you do too, that will just, I can push through this. I can push through it,
Yeah.
and then you become exhausted. Now, the whole thing is, we don't want it to get to that point. When you get to that point where you're actually so exhausted and your adrenals are burnt out or overworked and stressed, it can take a lot of effort to get your adrenals back on track. So my wish and goal is that you ladies take this information and nip this in the bud. Like, let's get cortisol balanced long before you get to that point. And let's help your friends do that too. I mean, this is the kind of information you want to spread out there to your friends. So I guess the next logical question is, how?
Well,
How do
yeah,
we
so
do
that's the question, because sometimes I go to bed and, like, I guess if your cortisol levels are high, your heart rate would be high, right?
Can be. It
Can
can.
be.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
the
where,
anxiety can come from that too.
yeah, so that's where I kind of like, I feel that, Camille, like, I sometimes I go to bed, my heart rate's racing. I'm like, oh, that means that I'm overly anxious and I can't calm down enough to actually fall asleep. Like you're like boo, like the hamster is rolling. And so I either have to like read or look at something funny or or massage my legs, because usually that's massaging my legs calms everything down. But I know like that's sort of like one of those triggers for me.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's a
and if I
clue.
don't get a good night's sleep, yeah,
It becomes a vicious circle. Sleep
yeah,
is so important.
mm-hmm,
Restorative, deep sleep is key.
yeah,
And if cortisol is interfering with your deep sleep or your ability to get that sleep, which for many women, that's the case.
yeah,
It does, it's the hamster wheel thing. It just becomes worse and worse. And,
mm-hmm.
again, we get closer and closer to that burnout. And that's what we don't want to have. I'll give one quick tip right now, which is magnesium glycinate. I share that with
Oh yeah.
most women that I know. And honestly, without exaggerating, I'm going to tell you that 90% of women will notice a significant improvement in their sleep, in the restless legs, Sylvie, in their
Ah,
because, and I want it to be specifically magnesium glycinate because there's many different types of magnesium, and we tend to be quite deficient in this very important mineral. We in fact call magnesium the master mineral, and probably 75% of the population is deficient in magnesium. And in fact, when I had my own blood work done, I asked them to test vitamin C, magnesium, zinc, vitamin D, all really important to find out what your levels are. And lo and behold, I had low magnesium. And I always say, I'm pretty on top of this stuff. So if I
yeah.
have low magnesium, chances are you do. But magnesium glycinate is well absorbed, and a lot of other magnesiums are not. Some magnesiums can cause diarrhea, loose stools. We don't want that. Some
Mm-hmm.
magnesium aren't well absorbed. Anyway, magnesium glycinate readily available at any health store, probably
Perfect. Getting some tonight.
stores. Yeah, and you start with 200 milligrams. You can go up to 600 milligrams at bedtime, but truly, a lot of women really notice deeper sleep, better mood, less restless leg sort of thing, and it can make it just as something that's really natural and good for us. And you can also take magnesium glycinate 200 milligrams during the day, and it won't
Okay.
sleepy per se, but it will help with your mood, and again
Mm-hmm.
help with muscle relaxation, like that sort of thing. So that's just a little tip. But how else do we balance cortisol, because this is so important? And Sylvie mentioned it at the very beginning. One of the big draws for me using the Isogenics superfood nutrition is that several of their products have adaptogens. And if you don't know what
Mm-hmm.
adaptogens are, they are actually fairly well-known plants and mushrooms, all found in nature, been used for centuries, they say. But like rhodiola, shilajit, ashwagandha is a very popular
Mm-hmm.
one. You may have heard of that one. There's some reishi mushrooms. There's some mushrooms that fall into the category. But adaptogens, these plants are shown to allow the body to adapt to both physical and mental stress. So athletes have long used adaptogens before we realized that not just physically but it works on the mental stress. They really do balance cortisol, and a lot of
I I actually have some here.
there you go. And you know why that is so great, Sylvie? It doesn't have just one adaptogen, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people go, you buy one, you buy two. It has the key, I believe it's eight. The key eight ones, plus super botanicals,
Yeah.
lots of B vitamins. So it's almost like
B12.
12. It's almost like a really great mineral drink that with these adaptogens, that it's like it just allows that cortisol to get balanced, and that's what we
Mm-hmm.
want. So I highly recommend, I can speak to Sylvie about getting started on that. It's economical and it works. It's
Yeah.
very non.
I I actually use that, Camille, sometimes at night before bed.
And how do you find that works for you? Because I know it's different for different people.
It's different for me, different times. Sometimes it works really brilliant. Like it just helps. When I first started using it, I could feel my body like just calm, like just like it's kind of like falling into your body. I could feel like, oh,
Nice.
but now like I used it last night and I don't even remember falling asleep. But I did wake up at 12:30 to pee, and I wake up at 12:30 every freaking night to pee. Like, I don't think that's my adrenal glands. I try to stop drinking like before 8 o'clock so that I don't have to pee. But yeah, every night. I think maybe one night in a couple weeks I actually slept through the whole night. But peeing, I look at my clock, like at 12:30.
Are you able to go back to sleep?
Oh yeah, I can fall asleep, no problem.
Well, that's not the end of the world.
No, I know it's not.
You may find the magnesium can help, give that deeper sleep. We tend to have deep sleep at the very beginning of our sleep cycle.
Yeah.
So that also may be when I don't know what time you go to bed, but that may be when you're coming out of your deep sleep.
Yes, that could be because I do go to bed at 10:30 and it's right on track because that's that 90-minute kind of window. And plus, I would remember I was telling you, Camille, about the restless legs.
Yeah.
But I've had restless legs, but I've never had burning restless legs since this summer. And so when I wake up, it's almost like a trigger that my legs start burning and I have to literally stretch. So I'm like leaning over my bed, like stretching my calves and my quads.
Oh, and that wakes you up more, of course.
No, I try and keep my eyes closed.
Okay. That's smart.
Or I'll go downstairs and I'll literally use the roller on my legs, but I'm still really tired. And the thing is that if I can ease that burning in my legs, then I will go back to sleep. If I can't, it'll keep me up. So that's kind of like this almost stupid nightly tradition. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta stop this. What is this all about? Like I ride every day or every other day. This shouldn't be happening. I work out. Like, what is this? So I'm like, that's why, Camille, you need to talk to us.
My guess, without having seen any blood work, is you are deficient in magnesium. That can cause that. And again, 75% of people, men and women, are deficient in this important mineral. So wouldn't it be amazing if a simple fix could really make a big difference with that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So I'm completely open to this. And like I have a little list of things to do today since my husband's not here, and getting food is one. Our fridge is actually broken, but I'm not going to talk about that. But going to the drugstore and getting some of this will be on the.
And sometimes you'll find in the stores or the health store or the drugstore, it'll go by magnesium biglycinate. That's the same thing. So don't be thrown off by that. It's exactly the same thing, but you specifically, it should say magnesium glycinate.
Okay. So everybody, ladies, if you're listening to this and you're feeling the same pain I'm in, then let's all get this and report back to each other.
I'd love to hear. I love to hear the feedback. And again, it's not going to work for everybody. Every person is unique and different, of course. But I'm going to say by far the majority notice a difference. So that's one thing. The adaptogens, I can't say enough about. And I do believe in value for your dollar. So you really do want to look at, I both use and recommend that Isagenix Ionic Supreme because of the quality of the product. And it gives the results. There's some other products that Isagenix has that also has adaptogens. So for someone who's really stressed, we can use an adaptogen elixir where really all that's in it is adaptogens. I look at that for more the person who's super stressed. I'm going to have them drink for a week 2 of those bottles a day. They're like single dose bottles, and you're just getting the full dose of the key adaptogens. The beauty of this, Sylvie, is when you start to balance your cortisol, you notice it almost immediately. Like it's not that it's a quick fix, but you do start to notice it. And of course, I know you also recommend and we promote lifestyle things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we've all
Huge.
heard it, but there's no question, if you can start and or end your day with a few moments of meditation. If you don't like the word meditation, just
Medication.
meditation. Yeah,
Not
or take a
medication.
pill.
No.
No, I'm not for that. But if you don't like that word meditation, just call it quiet time. That's all it is.
Or
It's
walking.
They're walking. Oh, walking is completely underestimated. Would you agree?
Yes, I went for a walk at lunch with my husband. I'm like, "Hey, do you want to go for?" And that's one of the nice things about working at home. Well, nice things about working at home. I mean, you should be making time to get out of your saddle, like out of the seat. Like, I might,
Right. We
yeah.
all should.
So
And
we
even
went for
if
a
you're
walk.
working at an office, most people still
Mm-hmm.
get a break here and there, and getting out for a walk, or when you finish work. I know a lot of women who feel, oh, I'm not a runner. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But a 45-minute walk is not only good for us physically, but it's a relaxant, you
And
know,
just breathing in nature too. Like I find that
nature,
that's
air. And let's
big.
just
Yeah.
talk about breathing for a moment.
Oh.
Having some deep breaths several times a day. Ladies, you would be shocked at how many of us, myself included, that never breathe deeply. We can go all day, all week without. I mean, let's just take a second right now and let's all breathe in to the count of 4. Like breathe in right into your belly. And now huge exhale.
Mm.
You do that 3
You
times,
can feel
you're
it
gonna
in your
feel
brain,
better. You are.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
And it's instant. And we all have that at our power too. And that's going to help lower our cortisol. That's going to help us feel, take that me moment where you feel a little more in charge. Because one of the reasons, Sylvie, that I've observed in my counseling practice over the last year or two with COVID is that
oh,
living with the uncertainty that we all across the board, there's varying degrees, I recognize, but that level of uncertainty has been at a level that is unprecedented in our society. We
mm-hmm.
where we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know what our government was doing. We didn't know what this virus is doing. And
Mm-hmm.
that level of uncertainty also, our fight or flight, syndrome, which we all learned in high school, that
Yeah.
is our cortisol and our adrenaline and those things coming into play. So these lifestyle hacks are actually really important because they do put us in control. And the whole thing psychologically with uncertainty is we feel that outside events are controlling us and that we don't have the ability to control what's happening to us. And that causes the anxiety and cortisol to be worse. So we want to look at things that we can do every day. And I'll say as an aside, this is an important tip to teach your kids. Um, what are the things that I can do that are within my control?
Mm,
Deep breathing a few times a day is going for a walk, introducing the strength training, which we'll mention in a moment.
yeah.
Some of these things, they're all within our control. We can do that, and they do help us feel um, more that we're in the driver's seat of what's happening to us. And that's really important, to lower all these things and to feel that our hormones aren't ruling us, right? That we
Yeah.
actually have it under our control.
I think also being social media has created a lot more
Mhm.
stress. I feel it, and it's one of those things that, and it's another reason why I got a job outside the house that was not related to social media. Like we didn't
Mm.
mention this, but yeah, I just wanted to get away from it. And I don't know if it's a Gen X kind of thing because we grew up without it and we survived really nicely. And then, in our 30s, no, sorry, 20s, we were introduced to the phone, and, the full on computer and all that stuff. And then it just escalated from there. And either like, maybe I appreciate like some people have just gravitated that they just love it and they're just so, you know, addicted to it. But I just want to get away from it so much now. And because it is a big controller, and it drives a lot of stress, like because you have to be part of it for, being social and clubs and groups and all these things, responding, building your business, like, so I don't know. I was a fan, but it's just, and I find that stresses me so much. So it's nice to get away on my bike or do something else that is not, and feeling the need to, you know, document everything that you're doing, right? It's just,
Well, I love that though, Sylvie. We should talk
yeah,
about like you. So what you did is you took the pressure off yourself.
yeah,
What you're saying, and I agree with you, is there's all this pressure, particularly if you're an entrepreneur, you're in business for yourself,
mm-hmm.
all this pressure to, I love what you said, document your life. But it can be completely overwhelming. And we also know there's the element of all this comparison out there.
Yeah,
Everybody's documenting their life, and we know darn well it's not accurate. Like, let's face it,
yeah.
come on. I
Mm.
actually don't filter pictures, but I know a lot of people who spend considerable amount of time filtering their pictures. That's so much pressure. So I guess it's finding, how do you find that balance, Sylvie? Because I know you are an entrepreneur and you do have to communicate with your groups and that sort of thing. So how do you find the balance?
Oh my gosh, Camille, that is like the question of the century. It's
Mm,
like, um, I've heard like, and I'm not one of those yet. Like, well, shit. Let's just say we've all been in the same, maybe mentorship groups or mastermind groups, and it comes down to managing time, as per what you do. Um, and I'm not a good one to do it. I manage time for other things
mm,
that I feel are really important, like getting on my bike, working out, doing little projects around that I enjoy. But one of the things that I know that I need to do is like doing reels and doing stories and like being the happy person that everybody wants to follow and be like and emulate. And I'm just, oh my gosh, and I know like people want to see the other side, but I'm like, and that takes up time away from things that I want to do.
mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's just,
Very honest of you, though. Thank you. You probably just
well,
made a
it
lot of
does.
people, including myself, feel better.
Like I would like to go upstairs and work on a puzzle over doing stories. You know what I mean? Like things like that, or go out and garden over doing some stories that might help build my business, or like promote my podcast or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so
Yeah.
all these things sit undone because I'm trying to do this and I'm not doing it effective. And you know what I mean? It's like that hamster wheel that I just want to fucking get off of. And that's
Well, and
why
now what you're feeling
everybody,
like
did you hear
that,
that? It's a hamster wheel I want to get
be
off of. I just want
clear,
to ride my bike and
be
garden.
clear. But what you're describing is really real and
Yeah, but
in
that's
lots
what
of
our
women's
life
lives.
was,
And that's where your
right?
cortisol level, because again,
Do you
all
feel
the
it?
pressure.
I'm
Yeah,
having a hot flash right now.
that's right. That's right. It's feeling
Women
that
having
pressure.
fans is like, I think I'm gonna become one of those. Get myself a little hand fan.
Yeah, people do. Keep the temperature low.
So you brought it out. I'm like,
The
I'm
whole thing
more
is
than a
you in
real.
charge,
Yeah.
getting you back where you make the decision. How much social media do I really have? Like, there's an element that you probably have to do.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? And how do I make that easier? And then it's taking that pressure off yourself of being sort of the social media queen. I mean, there's lots of those out there. Do you need to be one? Do I need to be one? Maybe
No.
not. Maybe not. You know,
Like, I'm just gonna drink
there
all
you
of
go.
this right now.
Drink the ion.
Drink my
Drink the
seriously.
Kool-Aid.
When I feel stressed like this, I do go and chug away at the ionics, because
Yeah.
then I'm just like, okay, I can feel more.
Makes a
So
big
there's
difference.
a There is, yeah.
Well, that's a good segue into also some other nutritional things that we can do to balance our hormones. Because another aspect of cortisol that is very frustrating, I'm personally not very weight conscious, meaning I don't think too much about weight. I do think much more in terms of how do I feel? How do I feel when I get out of bed in the morning? I happen to play a lot of tennis. I know you cycle a lot. How do I perform? How do I feel when I'm playing a hard 2 hours of tennis? You know, how does my body feel? So I like to judge it that way. But cortisol is also affecting our ability to have a stable, maintain a stable, body fat, lean muscle ratio. And so it's another aspect of stress that I think it's important for women to understand. And a lot of women will come to me, and I know to you, Sylvie, talk about this unexplained belly fat, this middle body fat that just settles on them during the perimenopause into menopause years. And I'm going to say it's, so again, not being fixated on weight, but it's darn frustrating.
Oh no, it's like overnight. I'm like,
it happens
what?
very quickly. Well, so again, cortisol, I want to go back to cortisol.
Yeah.
Cortisol is often, not always, but often the culprit behind that. And when our cortisol levels are high, we can virtually starve ourselves, which I don't advocate. And we will not lose weight. The cortisol won't allow you to lose weight. And then you interplay that with insulin issues, which can often happen during this time too. Insulin's controlling our blood sugar, and our estrogen also. Our estrogen levels are really fluctuating a lot during the perimenopause time. So all of those things can contribute to that frustrating belly fat. So the answer, number one, getting the cortisol balance. I'm going to keep saying that over and over because it's that important. But again, one of the things I love about the Isagenix products is we have a cleanse drink that's based on an organic aloe vera, amongst other. Yes, you're doing a cleanse day. You can use it to support intermittent fasting, which can be of benefit to some women, not to all. I'll come back to that in a moment. But these cleanse days are working on actually pulling the toxins out of the body. And around that middle body, our organs are often encapsulated by body fat, trying to protect our organs from the excess toxins. So when we drink this powerful cleanse drink that's actually very soothing to the gut, we're literally pulling those toxins out, which in turn allows the body fat to come down. If we're balancing the cortisol, Sylvie, at the same time, women will find that that middle body, visceral body fat, we call it, will actually come off. And so that's a big relief for a lot of women, because that's not what they want. They don't want to be going around with that kind of, and it's also, frankly, it's dangerous body fat, because it is fat that is around our organs. So it is important to try to address it. So that would be another component that I think of nutrition that's very important. And the third prong would be the shakes. Now, I'm all for really good food, but I love what our athlete friend Stephen Bentley says. The shakes are like nutritional insurance. You're a busy mom. I know lots of women are super busy, and it's not always easy to get that really high quality, balanced nutrition 2 and 3 times a day, which is what we need. So if you can have a perfectly balanced shake that is actually going to build your lean muscle, which is really important as we get older, and support with all the micro trace minerals and all that, guess what? I'm in. I want to start my day with that shake so that I know I'm starting off every day with like a powerhouse of the right nutrients. And then I can eat and kind of go the rest of the day. And maybe I have another shake. Maybe I eat a couple more meals, but I know at least I'm getting that in. And so I think those 3 prongs, I like to call it the hormone trifecta, cleansing out the toxins of the middle body, balancing the cortisol, and then getting the great nutrition in. That can make a huge difference. Do you want to talk for a few moments? I know, I don't know how much longer we have, but I know we
got lots of time.
Okay. I have till 2:30.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to just reinforce what you're saying about those shakes. And that's something that I do every day, especially now that I'm working outside the house. I bring them with me, and as a server, like that's the job I took. It's just close to me. It's so enjoy it. Like I'm so enjoy it. Like you have no idea. I ride my bike there.
Oh,
I
fun.
meet people. I hustle. I make some money, and Camille, I make like a super shake before I go to my shift, because when you start, you don't stop.
Yeah.
Like even though you're supposed to take a break, like I don't buy the food there because I know when that starts, that's gonna so I make the shake, and it honestly carries me a long time because I don't just make the shake. Like I know I have all my nutrients in there, and I add peanut butter, I add a banana, I add oats, and
Mm,
it becomes like this super meal.
yeah.
Like and I do that before my long rides too. Like it's just a powerhouse of food, and I just absolutely love it. And
You're really fueling your
mhm.
body. And I want to add to that, what you're also doing, which I think is brilliant, Sylvie, is you're feeding your brain chemistry. So part of our thing
Yeah.
with hormones and stuff is also balancing out our serotonin and our dopamine, which are really important brain chemistry chemicals. And when you put a really good quality amino acids, which are the
Mm.
building blocks for protein, that
Yeah.
not only builds our lean muscle, but it's brain food. And so what you just, in your job, like you have to be on, you have to be
Yeah.
chatting with people, but it sounds like it's a real cortisol buster too. Balance.
Oh, totally. Like I am on a high.
I
Like
love it.
yeah, and I went there and I'm like, "Oh my God, I haven't served in like decades. Like what am I going to do? Like how is this honestly, the first couple hours, Camille, I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this job. And I'm like, "Sylvie, like you've survived tree planting. How can you not
Yeah,
survive
yeah.
a shift?" I was just like, and then my girlfriend Linda is the manager there. I'm like, I can't let Linda down. Like if I quit, she would never like, you know what I mean? Like so honestly, the first couple hours I'm like, I can't do this. I can't like walk with beers and shit like that. Like on the, like those girls. But I am now that girl, with the big tray and everything. But let's dive into just I know we have a little bit more time with you. The aging athlete. And we were talking about how cardio, because we're cyclists, let's just talk about cardio here. Cyclists is cycling or any type of cardio, excessive cardio is not going to get the results you're looking for. And I know that that's why like I did not do weight training for such a long time, and I added it back 3 years ago. And let's talk about that.
Yeah. Great conversation topic for sure, because there's a misnomer, I'd say, out
Hmm.
there that is, I think slowly getting recognition that it's not true. And that is that more cardio, the better.
Yeah.
Burn calories, burn body fat, drop body fat. How do I do it? Cardio, cardio. I've seen people, I used to have a gym membership. I now go in where I live, has a beautiful gym. I'm very fortunate. But I would see men and women, on the elliptical for
Busting it. Yeah.
an hour and 20 minutes, or they're on the bike. I've done a whole circuit of what I'm doing with weights, and I've done my 10-minute warm up, and they're still on the bike. And, they're reading the paper and they're cycling away. So they've bought into that misnomer. And what we know, particularly as we get older, is research is now showing that the longer cardio is jacking up our inflammation. And I spoke a little bit about inflammation in relation to heart disease. And the thing is, inflammation, we know, is really the basis of really all degenerative diseases. All the things that can happen to us as we get older that sometimes we accept as inevitable, they're not inevitable. So if we can control the inflammation, that's key, because inflammation is, for example, behind what's plaque. When plaque starts to fill up our arteries, it's why I hate to say it, a lot of long distance runners, as we know, have unfortunately, sadly, dropped dead of massive heart attacks.
Do you
They're
see what they
inflamed.
eat to keep them going? Oh
Yeah,
my
and they're
God.
inflamed.
Like,
So I want to liberate everybody and say, some cardio, yes, because we want our hearts to be strong. We want stamina. I want to be able to run around a tennis court, so I have to push myself a little bit. So doing the high intensity training for 20 minutes at a time. Sylvia, I know you've spoken of
mm-hmm.
another call that we did, 20 to 30 minutes max of alternating with high intensity for what, a minute, minute and a half, 90 seconds, with a slower time for a couple of minutes. Doing that sort of thing for 20 minutes is going to be enough cardio and isn't going to jack up your inflammation. And the other key thing is back to our adrenal glands being so busy working, making all these hormones with our cortisol out of balance and everything. Our adrenal glands do not like inflammation. So we put more stress as women on our bodies when we then do this long cardio. And instead of being a stress release, which is often why we get into exercise, oh, I need to,
Mm-hmm.
I got to release my stress. It in fact is doing the opposite, because it's making your adrenal glands not work as much. So there's a balance. And I love that Sylvie and I both agree on this. I would love you all to listen to your body, really learn to be in tune to your body and be okay with listening and doing what your body's telling you. You know,
Yeah.
um, when something doesn't feel right, I think, for most of us, and it's important to just tap into that. And some days, maybe you do no cardio, and that's where the weight training, my goodness, I learned from you, Sylvie. Weight training can be so fast. You can do
Yeah.
a speedy, I think of you actually, when I only have like literally 15 minutes, I can do an upper body workout so fast now. And
Mm-hmm.
it makes me feel strong. I definitely am seeing the
Oh,
difference.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I love it. And sometimes like literally I'm doing it for 12,
Mm-hmm.
13, 14 minutes, and that's it. So that fits in my life and
So,
creates stress.
so Camille, how do you explain the longer endurance rides? Because I love going out for 100K rides. And then you got the endurance athletes and how does that all fit in? Because I know somebody's thinking it. They're like, well, I love going out for long rides. Um,
Yeah. And you know what? Again, I respect what people choose to do. My own son lives in the mountains and he goes for what a lot of, I know you do. And he goes for, 2 and 3 hours
mhm.
longer and loves it. So I think that's a choice. I just want people to be aware.
Yeah,
If you're going to do that, your inflammation level will be higher. So you want to combat it.
right.
So then we're back to, how do I do that and enjoy it? And now I have to combat it, which is make sure you're eating good anti-inflammatory foods, make sure you're hydrating like crazy, really
Okay.
hydrating properly, make sure you've got adaptogens as part of your day-to-day support, and make sure during that long ride that you're fueling properly. And I think that's
Mm,
your area of
okay.
expertise.
Yeah.
How would you suggest people fuel properly for that?
Well, if that's the case, because I'm like, we got the endurance rides, the longer rides. Like, I would assume that, to be able to control inflammation from the exercise you just did, whether it's low intensity or maybe it's a higher intensity, is that you do have all these factors in place and you take the appropriate recovery time after the fact so that you don't continue building on the inflammation and not dealing with it. And then you got the cortisol levels and the adrenal glands and everything else playing in. Yeah. So, I mean, I am whole foods. I don't eat a whole lot of sugar when I do that. So insulin levels aren't super spiked with those types of foods, like when
That's
I ride.
important, Sylvie, because I
Yeah.
know I've seen a lot of cyclists, and I've been told
Hmm.
that a lot of these gel packs that are
Yeah.
filled with fueling are really high in sugars,
Yeah.
which is going to jack up your inflammation. So what do you suggest as an alternative?
Well, I always start with my shake. So I'm off to a good start
Yeah.
right off the bat. And then I'll either carry with me like sweet potato, or I'll take a bagel and peanut butter. Depending on how long I go, a bar will be thrown in there. I've made different types of rice snacks, like
Hmm.
squares. Also, like you can, I have these squeezable pouches. It's just like the kids that eat the applesauce out of these pouches. They're reusable. So I've created some recipes where you can you can put like a mashed sweet potato mix in there with peanut butter,
Oh,
and
doesn't that sound
drink
good?
it, like, and just,
Oh my.
I would say suck on it, but like drink it out of these little
Yeah,
packs. So
yeah,
you imagine how many calories are in there. Like sweet potato is one of the leading, superfoods for like high
yeah.
endurance, like energy and everything. And I'm like, oh, everybody should be eating sweet potatoes. But
And they taste good.
and they taste good. And yeah, you don't have to worry about, some people like to do straight potatoes, but then you have to add salt and like butter and all this to make it palatable to get down. Anyways, that's not me. So I actually have a little recipe book of cycling snacks that I've tested, and
Oh, okay.
you can get a free download for that if anybody cares. You can go to Ask Coach Sylvie, and you can get a free download of that.
Cool.
Um, and so I've been really experimenting with making snacks. Like, I'm not super good at it. I'm not consistent, but and you can freeze them and use them. So like, stuff with dates and figs and nuts, things like that. So
I
that's
love
what I
that, and
bring.
you're right, I'd love to get your download, for sure. I also
Yeah.
know that, I make sometimes when I'm motivated, which I really should because I love them,
I
little
know. I'm
protein
like,
balls,
I think I should be doing that.
but little protein balls with almond butter. I use
Yeah.
organic
Hmm.
shake powder for the protein, like you said, the nuts, and I just roll them, and they taste so good, and they're
Yeah.
incredibly satisfying, and they are
Hmm.
good for you, and it's what I like is there's enough protein in them that they're sustainable.
Yeah.
Sustaining meaning your energy level doesn't plummet, and that's really what we're
Hmm.
after, is to not jack up our blood sugar, right?
Yeah.
And do that.
And
Those
to
are some good
eat,
ideas.
yeah. And to eat consistently when you're out. Like, you have to eat consistently because you never want to feel a drop in your energy, because then it's just too late,
Yeah.
So it's being aware of what you're doing, not push the distance, and be able to you know uh feel yourself accordingly. And a lot of people are like, um aren't good at eating while they're biking. Same with drinking while you're
Yeah.
biking. Oh yeah, and then there's electrolytes. But so that's something that needs to be practiced,
Yeah.
because you can't just wait for the coffee shop or wait for somebody to stop or wait. You have to be able to fuel yourself as you're going, or else you are going to have you're going to, if you're in a group ride, you're going to cause a lot of safety issues if you have to stop because you just bonked, right? And then everybody else has to stop, and then we all have to wait. And then
Mm.
that that creates other safety issues down the road, because we sit, we eat, we drink our stuff, and then we still have to continue. I had that happen actually. So it's about managing your own self. And if you have to put a timer on your watch, do it.
Yeah. Well,
But
I guess
yeah.
that's the kind of thing that you teach in your group,
I
which is
do.
really, I mean, those kind of tips I wouldn't have thought of. That makes actually perfect sense. And
Yeah.
that's also in turn going to be a lot better for your cortisol
Yeah.
and your hormones if you are fueling regularly and
Thank
putting that
you.
into your
Yay.
body.
So
Yeah, so I think that's how, to answer your original question, I think
mhm,
that's how you can make those endurance runs, rides,
work.
and whatever else you'd like to do work for you, and also being really cognizant of having the rest days.
Yeah.
Our bodies do need, especially if you're pushing hard and if you're lifting higher weights and pushing your body in that. We need the rest days. We need the recovery days. And I think as women, we have to learn to be okay with that. And not be judgy, of ourselves and others. Oh, why I don't deserve a rest day, or I'm being lazy.
Or I'm guilty.
I'm
I feel
guilty. And we have a
guilty.
lot of
That's
these
the
messages.
biggest one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
But
it is important.
yeah, and just to touch before we go, the weight training part, because that was another thing. Weight training, builds muscle, helps endurance, reduces fatigue, recovery, all that, which I know not a lot of, very few people will take the time outside their cycling to incorporate some weight training.
Yeah.
And
It's key. It's so important. And I've learned a lot of that from you, Sylvie, but I also do know that we lose lean muscle as we get older.
mm-hmm.
That's a fact. And so we must do weight training in order to put that lean muscle back on. And we also need quality proteins regularly in our day, in order to build that lean muscle mass. And if you think about it, in the aging process, as we get further up there into your late 60s and 70s and 80s and onward, we all know we see those frail older people. Well, the studies are very clear. Even an 80-year-old who is lifting weights, they are going to put on lean muscle if they're fueling properly with protein. And that means you're not going to break your bones in the same way. It means, and I want to put a little plug in especially for your cyclists and for all women, which is stretching, yoga, flexibility.
Oh yeah, yoga, I added that too. Not very much, but it doesn't take very much.
It doesn't.
Honestly.
Mobility is key. And as a tennis player, mobility is really important, that I can move laterally and that I can stop and start, and it's hard on the body. So I have to say stretching has become, intentional stretching has become an integral part of my day-to-day life. It's also quite relaxing. You're holding your stretch for 30 seconds. And you do respond really fast, everyone. Like, I have runner friends who, they can barely put their fingers, their knees, they're so tight. And when they start incorporating a basic stretching routine, honestly, within, I don't know, a week or 10 days, they're seeing wild improvements in their flexibility and their mobility. So I think it's not to say and put pressure on anybody that you need to do all these things.
Yeah, I know. It's like, how do I fit it all in? That's like,
right.
Oh my God.
I don't want you to be overwhelmed, because each of these things we're telling you is less time. Weights are 15 minutes. Cardio maybe is 20, but we're talking 3 times a week. You don't need to do it more than that. Flexibility is probably the one that you do want to do every day, and you can do that while you watch TV.
I know. We could all be doing more things while we watch TV.
It's
You can lift weights if you want. Do your yoga. So
anyway, I think we've covered a lot of topics.
Yes, we've covered a lot.
It's been great.
Thank you so much. I hope our listeners, you ladies and gentlemen, have taken a lot of good tidbits from us. Maybe taken some notes. I know I'm going to get my magnesium biglycinate. I hope I get the right thing.
You will.
And start putting that to use, because dang, I would love to sleep through a night. But I do wake up rested, and I am watching my sleep. But so, and thank you so much. I think, I don't know, can you talk about menopause now, but can you talk on men?
Yeah. And andropause, we call it, but
andropause. Okay. So maybe what we'll do is, of course, we'll do something for the men.
Sure.
We'll bring Camille back, and we'll talk, and she can just talk all about, what do you call it? Menopause? Andropause. Well, somebody said menopause, but we're just
but it's not the same as women, but it's still definitely a hormonal shift. So we should talk about it. We don't.
I think very few men think that they go have hormones. Like, remember we talked, I'm like, what do you mean men have hormones? Exactly. Men have hormones. So we should be talking about them. So I would love to have you back, and we will talk about men's hormones.
My pleasure.
We got men who listen to the podcast regularly. And so I think that's essential. Well, thanks so much, Camille. I learn a lot from her with regards to, and I love coming here and having her talk and really explain things so that we can all understand. That's another love thing.
Thank you. So, I'm glad.
Thanks, Camille. Have an amazing day, everyone. And don't forget to follow the podcast wherever it is that you listen, and maybe give us a review on this podcast. That would be awesome. Take care, everyone.
Okay. Bye. Bye, Sylvie.
Bye. All right, friends. Well, there you have it. That was an amazing chat with Camille. I mean, sometimes we just talk about so many things in our episodes that it's hard to nail down the one thing. But as women, the end of our conversation, we were talking about cardio and how you can do everything right during your ride so that you do not throw your hormones out of balance. Because there are so many women who ride, but never feel good. And they do it out of stress and doing out of need, or maybe it's like you're trying to follow everybody, or FOMO of not getting on your bike like everybody else. But getting on the bike is one thing. Is doing everything right around the bike is another. So meaning the nutrition, the sleep, the recovery. Maybe we didn't touch on the aging athlete with regards to training, but that's not what this was about. I highly recommend going and listening to this 3-part series that I did with Joe Friel about over the aging athlete, that, and get his book, because that touches on the training part about how to train properly as an aging athlete, where more is not better. Intensity is better than adding the intensity is over long endurance, or long endurance with your intensity. But it is so key to really sit down and look at what you're doing to make sure that you're doing it right. And if you're feeling a certain way, then odds are there's some improvements to be made. Would you not agree? And figuring out what they are. And if you need someone to help you out, please reach out to me. I coach a lot of men and women, and I have room for a couple more clients. Yes, I coach. Drop me a message on Instagram, or take my email off of the show notes and fire me off an email, because sometimes it's just things you can't see that you're doing that I can pick out. And usually a lot of times that's the case. So with that, have yourself an amazing rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks a lot, guys. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, all things cycling podcast, with your host, Sylvie Dow, as Coach Sylvie. And this is Friday, your coaching segment. We are going to talk about how to lose that extra 5-10 pounds, right? Maybe you got on the bike and you're like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do to lose weight. Well, before we get into it, I have 4 different things that we're going to talk about. But before we get into all those things that's going to help you lose 5-10 plus pounds, let's just say what an amazing episode that was with Jenny True. Oh my God, I love that girl. I just had to say that. And also a big shout out that it was her birthday on that day. And now, dang, I wanted to shout out to a guy that I raced with, I raced with last weekend at the Gravel Cup Canada. And he was riding in our little Peloton group at the front of the 40K. Now, he wasn't able to, he kind of stuck with us. Yes, he did. He stuck with us. We were a pack of 5. So 3 guys and 2 girls. So you know what that means, right? Big sprint for the finish, which happened. And I came second. Oh, well, I can't always win everything. I knew it was going to be a sprint to the end. And, yeah, so we were talking at the finish line, and one of the guys is like, "Hey, are you Sylvie Daou?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I listened to your podcast." And I'm like, "Oh my God." He's like, I've been listening to you for a while now, and I love your episodes. They're so great. They're so diverse. And I'm like, I just want to shout you out. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I was going to look up your name before I started this episode, and maybe I can. Hold on. All right, so I want to shout out to Adam Frank, who we were racing together. We were chatting at the end after the finish line, and one of the guys asked me if I was Sylvie Daou, and I said yes. And he's like, "Oh my God, I listened to all your podcasts. It's so awesome, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Oh my God, that's great." You know, because it's really cool when you meet somebody who actually has been listening to you for almost a year. He picked up on the episode that I did about the Gravel Cup Canada last January with Brandon, and he's been listening ever since. So thanks a lot. A shout out to you. I want to give you, hopefully you'll listen to this one. Yeah, so, and also, we have been talking about winter training. What are you doing to train this winter? Now, if you have serious goals, like you had an amazing summer, you've been watching all these gravel events like I have, and you're like, yeah, this is what I want to train for next year. It is so important to get some sort of structure in behind you, and also skills. Skills, my friend, will take you up those gravel hills before you know it, down them. Pedal stroke efficiency, being more effective on your bike, economy, all those great things will come with somebody coaching you. And I want to invite you to look at my winter cycling program by texting the word cycling to 819-809-0999. So text the word cycling. It will land you. You will get some text messages, and our membership is going to be opening soon. So it's a monthly subscription. You can start at any time, but you get a 50% off for the month of October. We start officially in November because even here in Canada, depending on the weather, as in the past, a lot of us still cycle through October. And then we get on, like, November's when everything starts getting cold and rainy and snowy. So that's when majority of us migrate inside, but you never know. I'm starting early because there are some people who just want to get on the bike earlier. So 50% off the first month, which starts October. And then we get right into it. It incorporates Swift. So you have to have Swift, you have to have a bike trainer. And I put in the schedule 3 times a week. So the most important one is coaching with me on cycling skills. The other one, which is a Thursday night, if you can't make it because of your time schedule, it'll be recorded. You'll get the recording so you can do it on your own. And then joining the group ride on the weekend as per usual, and then a higher intensity workout once a week. So as aging athletes, this is so important for improvement and progress and performance, is to get that one intense workout in. Like the night that we train together, it's more coaching. So you are going to take that coaching session and you're going to apply it throughout the winter months in your cycling. So you will be learning as you go and putting into practice what I'll be coaching you. And the difference between that and getting a cycling coach is a cycling coach online is just going to give you a workout based on what your goals are. What we're going to do is I'm going to be able to evaluate you as per what you need. And also, like, everybody needs to improve cycling skills, period. I have seen like any one person who can't be tweaked in some way, but it's the most important thing is to avoid overdoing it in the winter, which a lot of people do. They get onto all these Swift tours and they overtrain, the group rides with friends and yada, yada, yada. And then they come out super tired and overtrained for the spring. And that's not the point. So we're going to work people and get them to 100K by April, May for sure. And so building up your endurance base, you're sitting on the saddle, you're going to be a rock star when the spring hits. So if this interests you, it's about being consistent in getting 4 to 6 hours a week. So for a lot of us who are working, who have families, this is attainable with your weekend ride, and you shouldn't be overwhelmed by having to do more. So if you get a little extra time, we'll help you add those in. So text the word cycling to 819-809-0999, and you'll be sent the invitation to get 50% off the subscription. It's a monthly subscription. It's way cheaper than what I've ever charged. But I just wanted to make this more accessible to more people online, and it stops when the program stops. So it has a lifespan. It goes for the duration of the coaching, which is up till April. So you check that out. And let's get back into what we're really going to talk about. And that is how to lose an easy 5 to 10 pounds. Now, I know as a cycling coach that we see a lot of people immediately decide to get fit. And there needs to be some process to that decision. You can't just decide to get off the couch one day. You've been sedentary for like 10 years or 5 years or 2 years and go run a marathon or go join an Ironman event. That's ridiculous. Don't do that. If you're looking at my eyes, don't do it, because you are going to wreck your body. You're going to wreck your life, because it takes a lot of training that you are not ready for, and neither is your family. So yes, when you decide, and a lot of people just go straight up, decide to go straight to cardio, right? There's no other thing. They don't think about eating healthy. They don't think about sleeping or nutrition or any of that. It's just like, okay, I've decided to get healthy. I'm going to start running. I'm going to start biking. I'm going to start. But there really needs to be a plan. And if you have an aspiration to do a big, even like a big cycling event, like a Grand Fondo, you never been on the bike, you go and bike 180K. How do you think your body's going to feel? How do you think your ass is going to feel? Not good. So it's important to sit down and plan what you're going to do. And that means, deciding on an event or a goal. And then how are you going to go about doing it? Because those extra 5-10 pounds, I'm talking at the end. Those are the hard ones. Because if you're going to get off the couch and start getting active, yeah, you are going to lose weight. But you're not going to get down to your desired weight, because that requires a lot more work. That requires eating properly. You can't just you can change your habits, but if you're really going to do the full thing and have a healthy life, It means changing your life and maybe even changing your friends around you so that you have the ones that are going to support you, not drag you down. Now, the first one is eating. And I was just talking about nutrition. Eating properly, eating for your well, eating like let me just rephrase that. Changing up your current nutritional habits. Let's say you used to drink a lot of pop. Start drinking water. You're going to go through that phase where you're going to have a withdrawal. You're going to know that. It's same with coffee. You're used to drinking a lot of coffee, a lot of pop. You're going to go through the withdrawal. And while you're making the transition into reducing that for your body's going to react to that and you're going to drop weight immediately, right? But it's getting down to that desired weight that you're looking for. So not just doing those little habit changes are really significant in the long term, right? Stop eating fast food, stop eating fatty food, stop the diets, stop the keto, stop the intermittent fasting. All those special like fast little diets have a place if you say you've hit a plateau and you need to change it up. I've done that before myself, and I did keto for a month. I did it because I was doing it with a group, a very large group of people, like 1,500 people were doing it. It was like a group. And yeah, I dropped 6 pounds. I dropped 9 inches, which is even crazier. But I had no energy. I started napping in the afternoon and I got sick. So I basically removed all the nutrition that I was putting into my body and I just ate like protein and fat and a little bit of vegetables. So sometimes, these things are not conducive for athletes. So try to avoid them. Missing meals is another one. We're going to talk about, like getting too busy, missing your breakfast, missing your lunches and then showing up to working out and you haven't eaten since lunch. It's not going to work. It's going to be a wasted workout. You are not going to have enough energy to put the effort in that you need to improve. So missing meals is a huge one that I see a lot of women do. Is I think that missing meals is going to help them lose weight. Missing meals is going to help you gain weight because your body is going to protect itself by holding on to that weight because it's in starvation mode. You've heard that before. Missing meals is not an option. Always, here's a little tip. Put together, even if you're in your own house, that's an even worse way. If you're in your own house and you're missing meals, there's something wrong there. Like you are just not taking time for yourself. But if you're outside and, get yourself a really nice little lunchbox and fill it with all sorts of great snacks that you can pick on during the day, and also a meal for lunch and snacks before you go to your workout. I cannot emphasize that enough. Blood sugar level needs to stay level, to avoid those drops in energy so that you can perform your exercise. Okay. It's useless if you go there depleted and tired and hungry. You are not going to get a good workout, guaranteed. So the next one is sleep. Now, I am going to plug the next episode on the podcast, and that's with my girlfriend, Camille Lawson. She's a hormone specialist, and it is chunked full of juicy information about hormones. Now, guys, if you're listening to this, we are going to do one for men as well. So this one is particular for women, but we're going to do another one for men and hormones. But stress, if you don't get a good night's sleep, like what you could do that I started doing it a year ago, almost a year, is tracking my sleep just to see what kind of sleep quality I'm getting. I'm not getting obsessed, but then because that then causes a stress, and stress is one of the ones that you want to avoid, because stress is never good. Stress drives your cortisol levels up, and if your cortisol levels are up, your body will never respond to weight loss, no matter what you're doing. So that needs to be, you need to think about that. So getting the proper amount of sleep, good quality sleep, overtraining can cause you to not have proper sleep. Being on your phones before bed can cause you not to have good sleep. So it's a really good idea to get rid of your electronics at least an hour before you go to bed. So you kind of, not de-stress, but decompress from the day. So I just started a job. Okay. I just started a job. Yeah. As a server. And I absolutely freaking love it and I've done all sorts of shifts: early morning, lunch, and late evening. So late evening, I would get home like 11:30, but it's so close. I actually bike home. It takes about 15 minutes. And in that time, I de-stress. I just relax because it's so nice. It's quiet, it's dark. And I'm just enjoying this whole experience. And it's actually really making me feel really good. Who knew? Right? But sleep is a huge one. And I know that you will probably know when you're not getting enough, that you're always tired, you're always cranky, you're always fatigued. And this is a time where, take a couple days to sleep in. Oh my God, it makes you feel so good. I make sure one day a week, which is usually Saturday or Sunday, I sleep in, and I try and get like a good, 8 to 9 hours that night. It's funny because sometimes on a Friday night, I'll go to bed like 9 o'clock, where most weeknights it's like 10:30, and I'll sleep till 8, and nobody messes with me until I get out of bed. Number 3 is the evaluation of your training. So that is, too much. If you're doing too much and you're not giving yourself enough recovery, I see so many people do that. They feel guilty. They have to be doing something all the time. It's not the case. You have to give your body the time to recover in order for it to actually increase in strength, increase in productivity. Like all the long endurance rides, well, your body needs some downtime, and it's going to make you stronger. Please realize that you can't be going hard all the time without downtime, because and the sleep plays a huge role, because sleep, that's when your body takes the time to recover and rejuvenate and get stronger. If you're not sleeping well, your body will never have that opportunity to do it. So evaluating what you're doing and staying on track. So are you doing too much? Like, is it too much with what you're doing? Did you just take on a really hard job? Are you now taking care of a parent? Like, what's going on? Do you need to, pay attention to your relationship with your husband? You might need to take some downtime, whatever. But are you doing too much? Okay. Number 4, we talked about it, rest. So you see how everything kind of plays on each other. You can't have one without the other. The rest is more important than the training. And you've probably read that somewhere. If you don't have like days off, your body can't rest to get better. So I can't even say how important that is. Like you can do active recovery, like do something like, a really chill ride that's not pushing you, like elevating your heart rate, a walk or like yoga or, something that's not like intensively pushing your body. Those are good active recovery days, like maybe a hike or something that you aren't currently training in. And here's a bonus one. Start lifting weights. Lifting weights burns fat. And that's another great way to make it a full package. You've got your eating down, your sleep, you're evaluating your training. Is it too much? Maybe you need to add a little bit more, and your rest. So with that, I hope that helps you out. As mentioned, if you need a second opinion on what you're doing, please reach out to me. I will be more than happy to take a look at what you're doing. And that's what I do. Sometimes it is about asking for help and just having somebody look at what you're doing. So have a great day. Please don't forget to follow us on Instagram, follow the YouTube channel, put out a review. And also you can go for some downloadables on buymeacoffee.com/secret saddle pod. That would be super cool. I've got a couple free downloads. I'm going to be adding more there. So you can go and grab your downloadable and buy me a coffee. Yay. Oh, here's something I wanted to mention. The last podcast that I did on Allison Jackson, I messaged her, because I was reading that article about her leaving cycling to become a TikTok influencer. And it looked pretty recent because it just popped up on my feed. And it also just seemed to be pretty timely because of all the attention she's getting on some of her TikToks and reels. But she's like, oh my God, that's such a April Fool's joke. I'm like, but it's not April. Anyways, so who knows? Anyways, have an amazing day. We'll see you on the next podcast. Take care, guys. Hey friends, thank you for enjoying this podcast episode. I'd love to invite you to visit our new and exciting page on buymeacoffee.com/secret saddle pod to check out some cool downloadables. And if you are so inclined to supporting the podcast with the purchase of a coffee would be greatly appreciated in helping keep the podcast going. Also, providing a separate rating and review on your favorite platform with any thoughts about the podcast are hugely helpful and appreciated. Thank you so much and have yourself an amazing day. Thank you so much for spending this time with me on the Secrets from the Saddle podcast, learning more about sighting people, places, and things that make cycling such an exciting sport. I am so glad you stopped by today. Please leave me a review if you feel so moved to do so. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you could take 1 second to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it, I would be forever grateful. Also, if you could please leave me a review if you feel so moved by going to iTunes and leaving me an honest thought and an honest comment, telling me what you think, and most importantly, tell me what you'd like to hear more of. It would really help me to bring more great, inspiring cycling stories to you. Until then, have an amazing day. Make sure you ride your bike. And don't forget to visit my YouTube channel if you'd like to see the full version of this podcast live.